Look like Breanna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu has broken their silence about this massacre their team just had.
The result was pure gold, as the reigning champs were completely destroyed on their home court. Following a 14-point defeat, Sabrina Ionescu and Breanna Stewart took the microphones. And they did something that startled everyone rather than offering an explanation. There was no space for discussion on who controls this league after their candid evaluation of Caitlin Clark's performance. Did you find the Liberty Stars' graciousness in losing surprising, or do you believe they were simply acting politically correct after receiving education?
The performance we saw from Caitlin Clark today against a team that started off the season 9-0, a team that is the defending champions, might have been the greatest women's basketball performance we have ever seen. That might have been the greatest showing from a WNBA player we have ever witnessed. That was spectacular. The shots she hit in this game, y'all, were something like I've never seen any other women basketball player ever come close to hitting. There are NBA superstars out there that I have not seen have a game with that.
When you're watching greatness be recognized by other greatness, context is important. So let's establish the scenario. The defending champions, the New York Liberty, entered the game atop the standings, perhaps believing they could defeat a hot team that had been having trouble without their best player. Rather, they received such a comprehensive basketball instruction that they were awarded a diploma. Caitlin Clark reminded everyone right away why she is the most crucial player in professional basketball after returning from a 5-game injury hiatus. 32 points, 7 assists, and enough highlights to cover an entire Netflix documentary. Here's the kicker, though. Following the acquisition, of course, Clark and the Fever worked. Breanna Stewart and Sabrina Stewart didn't minimize or turn to justifications. What transpired was that they delivered Clark the flowers she was due.
Like we go on runs, they do as well. They're a great team. So I don't think it's defeating. I think obviously we know what a great shooter she is, and I think we just gave her too many easy ones. Obviously, she has great range, and her ability to get her shot off is really impressive, especially with missing some games. And so obviously on a personal level, I'm really happy to see her back out on the court, healthy, feeling good, because obviously it's important for them, but
when questioned about Clark's effectiveness following several game absences without hesitation, Sabrina gave credit where credit was due. She gave credit to Clark's shooting range and, more significantly, her ability to make a shot in spite of defensive pressure. That goes beyond simply being courteous. That's spotting great talent when you see it, even if it just made you seem foolish on national TV. However, Sabrina did more than merely praise Clark's abilities. She also conveyed her sincere joy at having him return to the court in good health. Personally speaking, I'm thrilled to see her back on the court in good health and spirits because, while it's obviously crucial for them, I'm also glad for her. It's not appropriate to say that about someone you view as merely another adversary. That shows respect for a player you know is unique. The admission made by Sabrina that they gave Clark too many easy ones was the most significant aspect of her remarks. Consider that for a moment. One of the greatest shooters in WNBA history is saying this, admitting that Clark's shooting skills are so exceptional that even somewhat open looks become automatic makes because Sabrina is knowledgeable about bombing threes from impossible. You pay attention when she says someone has excellent range, distances. Although Breanna Stewart took a different tack, her strategy was just as respectful. Stewart, one of the league's most successful players who has won MVP honors and championships, could have easily diverted attention away from Clark's performance by concentrating on officiating or team breakdowns. Instead, she accepted the fact that they were defeated by a superior team that specific evening.
Reaction with one another. Stewie's laughing. Caitlin knows it's ridiculous. Just out there having a good time with it.
Throughout the game, Stewart's body language spoke for itself. Stewart was watching from a distance to protect her when Clark hit that logo three. Stewart seemed to like the picture and grinned instead of displaying annoyance or rage. That's the response of someone who realizes they just saw something exceptional, even if it meant their team suffered a setback.
And we had our moments. We got back into the game. We had that run when Stewie was guarding Caitlin Clark, but then they executed well. And, we had so many breakdowns on defense, and they made shots. They really punished us on that end, making, 17 threes from 35. It was just too wide open. So
Stewart mentioned defensive lapses, but these weren't haphazard errors. They resulted directly from the gravitational pull that Clark exerted on the enemy fortifications. It appears normal when a single player can pull up from any place beyond half court. Totally alters the way that teams must defend the Liberty were forced to attempt protecting Clark without exposing everyone else, and they were utterly unsuccessful. The background of the rivalry between Clark and other WNBA players that media outlets have attempted to create makes these post-game remarks even more noteworthy. Rather than contributing to contrived drama or disparaging Clark's accomplishments, Ionescu and Stewart chose to be forthright and provide candid evaluations of what they saw. Even the most skewed observer is unable to comprehend the narrative that the game's numbers convey. Dispute with the Fever's three-point shooting percent was ridiculous. Professional shooters often make their shots when opponents are so intent on stopping one player that they leave professional shooters wide open, with Clark leading the charge and her colleagues profiting from the attention she garnered. Stewart's acknowledgement that they tax their players in an attempt to match the Fever's explosive burst illustrates the psychological toll that Clark has on rival teams. Rushing shots and defensive lapses resulted from the Liberty feeling under pressure to match the Fever's scoring output. It goes beyond basketball. That is a single player controlling the game's whole flow. The coach's viewpoint gave this story another dimension. Sandy Brondello didn't justify poor officiating or missing players. The Fever performed better and made their shots when it counted, she said. When coaches at the championship level give praise to rival teams without reservation, you may be sure that the performance was genuine and outstanding. The Liberty's defensive stats from this game are especially terrible. They let up 102 points, 53 of which came in the first half, to a club that had been having offensive difficulties without Clark. It's more than just bad defense. The ability of one player to skew opposing game plans results in a total systemic breakdown. When Sabrina said that basketball was a game of runs, it was intriguing as it recognized that the Fever's supremacy wasn't the result of a lucky break or a great shooting night. She acknowledged that Indiana successfully carried out their game plan and remained intense throughout the match, attributing success to consistent performance rather than fleeting good fortune. This game's whole plot is revealed by the shooting discrepancy. While the Liberty only made 20% of their three-point attempts, the Fever made 17 three-pointers. It's not luck. That happens when a team's best player draws so much defensive attention that everyone else becomes more threatening, improving the team's appearance. Stewart's analysis of the resiliency of a team was telling since it demonstrated the extent to which this loss impacted their mental health. Although the Liberty take pride in being championship-level players, they acknowledged that they found it difficult to keep up with Clark's speed and skill. The Liberty's transition game statistics were especially harsh since the reigning champs are discussing the need to examine ourselves after losing to a club that was written off without their star, which speaks something about Clark's influence. The Fever quickly produced 19 break possibilities in contrast to their most recent difficulties. Clark's ability to quicken the tempo and provide scoring opportunities before defenses can set up is directly responsible for that. Stewart acknowledged this by pointing out how challenging it got when they were unable to establish their half-court attack and make stops. Ionescu's acknowledgement of their offensive difficulties when they are unable to transition shows how much their whole game plan was thrown off while Clark was there. Defensive stops that resulted in attacking opportunities were the cornerstone of the Liberty's identity. However, the entire system malfunctions when the other team scores goals at will. Thus, Clark's performance wasn't enough to defeat them. She broke up their group. The discrepancy in free throws during this game made matters worse for the Liberty. They were unable to match the Fever's attacking effectiveness even though they received more foul calls. Stewart's admission that they didn't reach the rim sufficiently illustrates how driving lanes became more challenging to locate and take advantage of due to Clark's presence on the perimeter. The Liberty tried a number of defensive strategies to slow down Clark, but each one failed. They tried zone coverage, tried to completely deny her the ball, and changed everything. This made the coaching changes conversation very fascinating. Nothing was successful. When coaches at the championship level run out of things to say about a particular player, that player has advanced too. Typical basketball classifications because they implied that this defeat made them reevaluate their position in the league hierarchy. The stewards' remarks regarding team identity and knowing who we are were telling. The Liberty went into this game as the league leaders and reigning champs, but they came away wondering if they were indeed the best team when everyone was well. These post-game emotions gain additional depth from the global viewpoint. Stewart and Ionescu have both played international basketball for their nations and are well-versed in elite basketball. Their acknowledgement of Clark's aptitude is more significant since it comes from athletes who have faced the greatest in the world and are aware of brilliance when they see it. Sabrina's particular reference to Clark's ability to make her shot brought to light a distinction between proficient shooters and outstanding scorers. Making open shots isn't enough. When the game is on the line, you have to create and make shots under pressure when defenders are all over you. Throughout this game, Clark frequently displayed that skill. Stewart mentioned defensive communication problems, but these weren't sporadic mistakes. They resulted directly from Clark's movement and judgment, which forced defenders to make snap decisions. That frequently turned out to be incorrect. Even championship-level teams begin to appear unimpressive when a single player can routinely put 5 defenders in difficult positions. The pace of play debate showed how Clark's comeback completely altered the game's rhythm. The Liberty are accustomed to setting the pace and directing play, but Clark's arrival compelled them to adopt an up-tempo style that suited Indiana's players and strategy. Stewart's recognition of this demonstrates his professional regard for Clark's influence on gameplay. This appreciation was given for more than simply made shots in the shooting performance. It concerned choosing shots and making decisions under duress. Clark always made the correct decisions at the appropriate moments, even when he was taking what seemed to challenging attempts. Ionescu's acknowledgement of this demonstrates an awareness of the characteristics that distinguish truly exceptional players from merely competent ones. The debate about team chemistry became pertinent as Clark's arrival instantly restored the offensive character of the Fever. Without her, the players who had been having trouble finding rhythm suddenly appeared at ease and assured. Stewart's judgment regarding execution recognized that this was more than just individual genius. One gamer greatly improved the lives of everyone around them. The Liberty's attempt to put Clark under defensive pressure failed dramatically since it gave her teammates more opportunities. Stewart's acknowledgement that he gave up too many opportunities showed how Clark's stature as a scorer confers benefits that go well beyond her. Specific statistics. The post-game interview's examination of the game plan demonstrated how well the Fever had prepared for this encounter. They successfully exploited defensive inclinations that championship teams typically conceal and targeted particular Liberty flaws. The execution of these strategic advantages relied heavily on Clark's court vision and decision-making. Once Clark found her stride, the game's momentum changes all appeared to benefit Indiana. Since Clark could create offense from anywhere on the court, even when the Liberty made runs, the Fever had an answer. Stewart's recognition of this fact demonstrated professional respect for a player who can change the results of the game beyond simply scoring goals. Clark's 7 assists demonstrated her capacity to improve teammates' performances, demonstrating her statistical domination. Ionescu's appreciation of Clark's full game demonstrated an awareness that winning is influenced by more than just individual scoring for genuinely great players. The consequences of this defeat for the title were not lost on Stewart or Ionescu. They admit that when Clark is healthy, losing to the Fever alters the debate over which club is truly the greatest in the NBA. That isn't the type of casual admission made by reigning champions. These post-game remarks demonstrate a level of respect that goes beyond simple business etiquette. Both athletes acknowledged that they had seen a performance that made clear to everyone why Clark is regarded as a generational talent. They demonstrated the kind of sportsmanship that uplifts the league as a whole by being willing to give credit where credit is due. You know, something exceptional has happened when the defending champs publicly praised the player who just disgraced them. Instead of offering an explanation, Ionescu and Stewart respected Clark for her outstanding achievement. How did you feel about their elegant reaction to being outperformed by a song that the like button? Leave a comment below and sign up for more insightful WNBA analysis. Everybody, Caitlin Clark.